Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm Ray, What Ray Reads. Follow me on Instagram and What Ray Reads on TikTok as well, because she's on TikTok. So I thought today, since it's the end of the year and I'm one who likes to make lists, who likes to log what they're doing. Oh, easy! And she's a bookworm. I thought, why not tier rank all the books that I've read in 2024? I did this last year and I enjoyed doing it, so I thought, I'm doing it again. So it's been a fairly good reading year for me. I'm a slow reader, so the fact that I read 50 books is a win. Some people can read hundreds, but I'm not that kind of girl. Unfortunately, I'm not like everyone else. So I set my reading goal for 50 and I crushed it, but I've tried to set reading goals for more books. The way it goes is you read 40 books, the next year you want to read 50 books, and then the next year you want to read 60, and I imagine you can all count so you can see where this is going. It doesn't matter how many books you read. If you've read 1 book, 2 books or 100 books, you're still a reader and you've still spent time with a book, with a story. So let's not get too caught up on numbers. It doesn't really matter. So this year I read library books, audio books, thrifted books, and then books that have been on my shelf for too long. I've read some great books. I've found a few new favourites. I've read some books I didn't like. We're going to go month by month and in the order of the books I read. The tiers that we've got are God tier, pretty self-explanatory. It's books that are godlike, they're iconic, they blew me away, ascended me up into the heavens, if you will. They're just the top of the top, the cream of the crop. Then we've got That's Mother. So, she's mother, she's mothering. She was good, as mothers are, most mothers, not mine. But she's just not quite God tier. There was things that I either didn't like or I was left wanting something else. Then we've got Meh. She's middle of the road. She's meh. I mean, I didn't hate her, I didn't love her. I may have enjoyed her a little bit, but she wasn't giving me anything new. She was a bit go girl, give us nothing at times, but then at other times I was like, you can take it or leave it. Then the second to last tier we've got is Sure Jan.
Sure Jan.
And that's just a book that it wasn't for me, and I was just like,
no ma'am.
And then bottom of the barrel is where you'd put your Colleen Hoovers. Sorry, that's my opinion, and that is Shredder. The book belongs in the shredder. So there's the tiers. Let's get into it. So first, I'm gonna have to rearrange my microphone. So the first month, obviously, of the year was January 2024. The first book I read was Welcome to the Hyunam-Dong Bookshop by Hwang Bo-Reum, and it was such a cutesy, cosy, touching book. It was very comforting and it was a great book to start the year with, and I rated that 4 stars. So she's going in That's Mother. Go on, get in That's Mother. Yeah, I really did enjoy that. It was just such a perfect book to start the year off with. Then the next book I read was The Vulnerables by Sigrid Nunez, and I rated this 4 stars as well. This was kind of like a stream of consciousness, and it's probably not for everyone, but I really enjoyed Sigrid Nunez's writing. It kind of reads a bit like a diary in a sense, and you can tell she's inspired the story even though it's fiction. I think she wrote it during COVID, but I found it an enjoyable read, so she's also going in That's Mother. Okay, I said I read 4 books, but that was actually a lie. I read 3. So the last book I read in January was a non-fiction book called The Forgotten Girls, a memoir on friendship and lost promise in rural America by Monica Potts, and this was a book that was sent to me, so it wasn't on my radar, and I found it sad but a realistic look on life struggling in working class America, rural America, where you kind of oftentimes feel forgotten. The opportunities start sort of dwindling away as you get older, and it was just really touching, eye-opening and handled with sensitivity. So she's also going in That's Mother. So as you can see, we started off the year strong. Then we move on to February. February I did actually read 4 books, and it was a mixture of library books and thrifted books. So the first book that I read in February was The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, and I wanted a thriller, I wanted something easy and quick to read, and it did that, but did it break boundaries? No! Did it go down a new, unique path in the thriller genre? No. So I gave her 3.5 and she's going in meh. Oh, no, you get out of that, mother. You're not mother, sorry. I feel like this book screamed, I'm going on holiday and I'm sitting by the pool and I want something easy to read. I didn't hate it, but kind of forgot about it after I read it. Then I read The Glow by Jessie Gaynor and I rated that 3 stars. And this was kind of supposed to be a bit of a satirical look at the beauty industry. And it kind of started out that way, but then it sort of moved into like culty vibes and the wellness industry, and it just sort of lost itself. And I was a little bit disappointed because the cover was chef's kiss. She was giving us life, but unfortunately the contents weren't. So she's going in meh. And then the next book was Hair, Body and Other Parties, a collection of short stories by Carmen Machado, and I really loved this book. I loved In the Dream House by Carmen Machado, but this is obviously short stories, so each story's different, and I do think short stories can be hard to sort of do well, but Carmen Machado's got a very specific style of writing, and she sort of leans into body horror and aspects of feminism and what it's like being a woman, and also queer stories, so she's going in God tier. And then the final book I read in February was Have I Told You This Already by Lauren Graham. This book was sent to me, and as you know, I'm a Gilmore Girls stan. I read her first book and I found that a lot more enjoyable than this, and this one sort of felt like the leftover stories that didn't go in the first book, so it was just a bit like she's going in meh. Sorry, I gave her 3 stars, but it definitely just seemed like a bit of a money grab. Sorry, that's my opinion. Then we're going on to March, my birthday month, Pisces, and I read 5 books in March. First book I read was Before We Were Innocent by Ella Bermnan, and I gave that 3 stars because it was one of those books where the synopsis basically lies to the reader.
Lies, lies, and more lies, and lies on top of lies.
Which is something that really actually quite irritates me. The synopsis was given very thrilling story of friends who go on a holiday. Something happens and one of them doesn't come home, and yet that is sort of the basic outline of the story, but it was kind of more of like a reflective character study, so I found it kind of slow and the plot sort of lagged a bit, so she's going in meh. I did give her 3 stars. Then we've got Glasgow Boys by Margaret McDonald, and this was sent to me and I absolutely loved this book. It's about 2 brothers growing up in working class Glasgow, and they're in the care system and they have a connection, but then they lose touch, and it's just very tender. As someone who was in foster care, I felt very seen and I thought it was handled really well, and the representation was nice to see, and I just really fell in love with the characters, so that's going in, that's mother. I gave her 4 stars. The next book I read was Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll, and I'd read her other book, Luckiest Girl Alive, I think it was called, years ago, and I really enjoyed that. So I thought, oh, I'll check this out, and apparently it was kind of like a retelling of, I don't want to say his name, Scummy Bundy. And I thought this could be interesting as a concept, but unfortunately I was left sort of wanting more, and it also felt like a bit of a market employ. So I gave it 3.5 and she's going in meh. Then I read I Who Have Never Known Men by Jaquline Harpman, one of my new favourite books, 5 stars, so she's going right into God tier. Dystopian feminist novel for those who are fans of The Handmaid's Tale. Very puzzling, shocking, scary, gripping, and it's only a short book. Everyone should read it. Then I read Paradise Rot by Jenny Haval. I gave that 4 stars. This is a unusual queer story about someone who's discovering their identity. They're kind of homesick while they're at university. It was a great exploration of like identity and coming to terms with your sexuality. It won't be for everyone, but I really liked it, so that's mother. Then we move on to April. First book I read in April was Play It As It Lays by Joan Didion, another all-time favourite coming in. I've not read much Joan Didion, but I wanted to this year. I only read 1.
Not my problem.
But next year I'm going to try and read more. This is set in the late 60s and it's about a woman whose marriage is crumbling. She's on the outskirts of Hollywood, her career's kind of dying, and it's a very modern female character study for the time. I just absolutely loved it. The character's flawed. Oh, she spat. There's moments that are shocking and touching, and it's just a great exploration of a character, and it reads very modern in a specific Joan Didion way. Right up to that mother for Play It As It Lays. Then Then I read Monsters, A Fan's Dilemma by Claire Didira. I rated this 3 stars because I found it really slow and quite disappointing because the premise again makes you think, oh, I really want to read this. It's about artists who we're all fans of, but then they turn out to be not very nice people.
Nothing new, nothing changed, same old shit.
And it was the author's sort of exploration into how she grapples with admiring the artist's work. And although she's asking all the right questions, I feel like we didn't really get any conclusion, or it was just her toying with the idea of, I kind of want to enjoy it, but I feel bad enjoying it, but nothing really happens. I feel like there's not enough introspection. It puts the same puzzled feelings at the forefront for all the book, and I'm just like, okay, if you wanted to do that, it could have been a lot shorter. I rated that 3, and you know what? It's going into short jam because I thought the book's almost 300 pages, and the conclusion was, I still want to listen to the work or watch the work, but I feel kind of bad. What was the point in writing the book?
Get her, Jade.
Then I read Tom Lake by Anne Patchett. I wanted like a spring book, and it ticked all the boxes. I gave it 4 stars. It's a sort of hazy look back at this mother who's telling the story to her daughters of when she had a romance with a now famous star, and it was just like the perfect summer spring read. She's going in, that's mother. Then on to May. The first book I read in May was our queen Emily Henry's new book, Funny Story, and I gave this 4.5 because I needed rom-com gold. She gave it to me. Some people didn't think it was as good as her others. I thought it was better than Happy Place personally.
That's my opinion!
So, you know, I can always rely on Emily Henry to give me rom-com greatness that I want, and I just melt into it, to be honest. So she's going in, that's mother. Then I read Ordinary Human Failings by Megan Nolan, and I loved her first book, Acts of Desperation. This one was a little bit slower than that one, and it was less introspective. It followed a family who moved from Ireland to the UK, and a crime happens and sort of they're suspected. So again, it was kind of a bit slow, but I quite liked the premise, but I just thought the payoff didn't really give. But I still really love her writing, so I gave that 3.5. She's going in, I think I'm gonna have to put her in meh, which, you know, I don't really want to do for Meg Nolan because I love her writing, but she was meh, sorry. Then I read Doppelganger by Naomi Klein, and that's a non-fiction book where she's looking at fake news, the alt-right pipeline, and she does it from a very specific point of view of the fact that she keeps getting mistaken for this once feminist spokeswoman, Naomi Wolf, and she seemed to get radicalised by fake news. Naomi Klein keeps getting mistaken for her, so she tells the story of trying to dig deeper into, 1, how she got radicalised, and 2, why the internet's such a specific place for false news. She's going into God tier. No, not that's mother, God tier. Then I read Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. Loved Cleopatra and Frankenstein. Blue Sisters was a touching exploration and look at a family of sisters whose sort of world crumbles and the relationships change forever when one of the sisters passes away. And I just love the way Coco Mellors writes female characters specifically, but she can write characters and they don't feel the same. They feel very unique and of their own, which is hard to do. So she's going in, that's mother. Then on to June. I went into a bit of a reading slump this month because Taylor Swift came and I don't think I could think straight, to be quite honest. I went to see her 2 nights in Liverpool. Next, I started reading Bellies by Claire Dinan, but I DNF'd it because I just couldn't get into it. The writing was sort of clunky and it was hard for me to dive into, and I've started getting the feeling it was going to put me in a reading slump. So I don't think I've included her on here, have I? No, she's not on here, so I can't really rank her. Then I needed something to get me out of my reading slump, something that was going to fascinate me and entice me. So I read Stiff by Mary Roach, which is about cadavers.
What the fuck is going on in here on this day?
It's the curious lives of human cadavers, and it's just all about what happens to the human body after death, how they've been used in experiments, how they're used by science, and it's just very fascinating science-based research, but also it's got a funny sense of humour of Mary Roach's style, so it makes the fact that you're reading about something very morbid funny at times and also engaging. So she's going in, that's mother. And then I read or listened to Say Nothing, a true story of murder and memory in Northern Ireland by Patrick Radden Keefe, and this is about, it's a very deep exploration and look of the Troubles, which is something I only know brief things about, but this book really gives you a sense of the history, the time, and how it impacted people, and it's just a fantastic book. She's going right up to God tier. And then July, so the first book I read was Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield, a very eerie sort of puzzling story about two women who are a couple, and one of them is a marine biologist, and she goes on a deep sea mission and something happens and she doesn't come back for months, and then when she does come back, she comes back a completely different person. Part of you feels like, is it set in reality? Are we really experiencing this? But I really liked the way the story unfolded. I gave that 4 stars, and she's going in That's Mother. Then I read Sociopath by Patrick Gagney, and I found this really disappointing. I gave it 3 stars. She's going in Shore Jam because she focused too much on what she was doing as an adult and less of her exploration. It felt very tone deaf at times because she's like a very privileged white woman. And then I read Trespassers. Say Nothing gave me a really great basis for that book because that's set during the Troubles, and it's a romance between a Catholic and a Protestant, and it looks at the tender moments of these characters, and I found it really touching, amazingly written and gripping. I read it really quick. She's probably one of my favourites of the year actually. She's going right up to God tier. I gave that 5 stars. Then I read a library book, which was Lemon by Hwang Sun, and I gave that 3.5. It's kind of like a sparse short story about a girl who goes missing, and it's told from people who were impacted by her death and how it altered some people's lives and not others. It's very sparse and it's not a linear plot or narrative. Just wished it was a bit longer. So I gave that 3.5. I'm going to put that in meh because there were elements I liked, but also there were elements that were quite forgetful. So then I read The Mystery Guest by Nita Prose on audiobook. I listened to it and I really loved the first in this series, The Maid, which follows Molly the maid in a hotel. It's very whodunit, Agatha Christie. A murder happens and you've got to find out who it was in the hotel, but Molly's a very unique character, and it's hinted that she may be on the spectrum, so you're seeing things very specifically through her eyes, which makes it more engaging. And unfortunately this just didn't work, felt far-fetched, and they just wanted to release another book for dollar bills, y'all. She was disappointing. She's going in Shore Jan. You don't need to read it. And then the final book that I read in July was Mongrel by Hanoko Footman, and I got this from the library. It was one of those books that actually I didn't know much about, but it blew me away. I found it very cinematic. It's from the point of view of 3 women between England and Japan, and how their lives interconnect but also have changed. It's got very specific characters. They've all got some sort of connection, which I don't want to get too much into. It's about identity, race, privilege, and feeling sort of lost in those things as you get older. And it was just a beautiful book, beautiful characters, beautiful writing, and it was very cinematic. She's going in God tier. I gave it 5 stars, so God tier. Then on to August. The first book I read was My Husband by Maud Ventura, and this is kind of for those who are fans of the unhinged woman. Someone who's very obsessed with a husband and will do anything for his attention. She's very focused in on being the perfect wife, even when it's questionable behaviour. But I thought it was an amazing and oftentimes laugh out loud funny and chaotic exploration into the psyche of a woman who's living to serve her husband's fantasies in a way.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
And you'll never be perfect. As Hannah Montana said, nobody's perfect. So there's a bit of a twist at the end, but I really enjoyed my time with this book, and she can't go in anything other than That's Mother, so That's Mother. She got 4 stars. Then I read The Guest by Emma Cline, and this was sort of in the crime section, but people were saying, you know, it's not really crime and it's not really thriller, but there are elements and tensions within the plot and the character that do make it kind of crime adjacent, but it's more of a character study about a complex woman who's, let's just say what she is. She's a sugar baby and she's doing certain things to try and be a certain way and get in with a elite crowd. It's a great character study about access, wealth, and she's a very flawed female protagonist that you can't help but reading about. I really enjoyed it. It was 4.5. It's a great summer read because the summer adds to the tension. She's going in. That's mother. Then I read Little Rot by Akwaeke Emzie, and I've read one of their books before, You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty, and there were aspects of that book that I didn't really gel with, so I thought I'll give them another go, and unfortunately I disliked this one even more. It's not the writing, they're an exceptional writer, but I just found it focused on too many characters, so it took me out of the plot, and I just found the pacing really slow. I almost DNF'd it, but I carried on. I thought, one, it could have been shorter, and it would have been better if it was snappier. It was focusing on a dark underbelly in Nigeria, but it just didn't work for me. I gave it 2.5, so sorry, she's going in meh. It was meh for me. Then I read a 5-star book, which was Empire of Pain by Patrick Radden Keefe, another non-fiction book, and I listened to this on audiobook, and it's about the Sakala dynasty and the opioid crisis which they orchestrated to make money.
Right to jail, right away.
And it's just so detailed, very well researched. She's going right up into God tier, she's going in. And then I read Piglet by Lottie Hazel. This is a very sort of female rage book. A woman who's due to be married, a husband tells her something shocking, she sort of goes off the rails, and I loved the exploration into appetites and wanting things and when dreams don't work out, and it was just a great female rage character study, so she's going in That's Mother. On to September, the first book I read was Assembly by Natasha Brown on audiobook, and I gave that 3.5, and this is sort of a look at race, sort of diversity in more elite privileged spaces, and we follow this woman she's in a relationship with someone who's much more privileged than her, and she seems like she's used as a token in a workplace. She's not seen as a real person, and it's about how gaining access and equality as a person of colour or as a woman, you're never fully accepted, and I enjoyed those sort of questions that were posed, but sometimes it was kind of hard to engage with because it's not like a linear narrative. So I did enjoy aspects of it, but I didn't love it, so it's going in meh. Next, I read Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Howarth, and I gave that 5 stars. This is set in sort of more of rural Ireland, and it's about a group of friends, teenagers, who are sort of just living their lives and discovering who they are and the sexuality, and it's about 2 girls who sort of develop a relationship but don't feel like they could be together because of the time, and it's just that push and pull of wanting to live your truth but not feeling like you can. First loves and being a teenager, and it's very tender, touching, beautiful. It's going in That's Mother. Then I read Calla by Colin Walsh, another Irish, and this is also about a group of friends and one of them goes missing, and then we skip to the future when the friends reunite again and the truth is exposed, and it's kind of said to be a literary thriller, I think is how you describe it. Characters are rich and vivid, so she's going in That's Mother. If you can't tell, I love Irish literature. Then I read YN by Esther Yee, and this was one I picked up from the library after seeing a few people read it on Bookstagram, and it's about a girl who lives in Berlin and she becomes obsessed with a K-pop band and starts writing fan fiction, and it sounds more interesting than it is because it's very reflective. It's hard to follow at times, there's not like a plot, and I feel like the interesting aspects are overshadowed for more sort of meandering aspects, and I just didn't really gel with it, so she's going into Shawjan, sorry. And then I read The Vegetarian by Han Kang, and I found this deeply moving. It's about a woman whose decision to become a vegetarian turns her life into a spiral because she pushes against what's expected of her as a wife, a daughter, and she's sort of pushing the gender and societal norms. It's also very reflective and touches on mental health. I found it very moving, beautifully written, and she's going in That's Mother. Then on to October. First book I read in October was Close to Home by Michael McGee, another Irish story about a working class young lad, shall we say, who leaves university and he's kind of back home working a regular job and struggling to sort of achieve the life he wants. He's living wage to wage, working in dead-end jobs, and he wants to sort of be a writer, but he's struggling with it because the day-to-day is just such a grind. Something that I think loads of people can relate to, and I love the exploration of the working class characters. I related a lot to the character. I gave that 4.5 and she's going in. It's mother. She already went there on her own. All the physical books I read this month actually were from the library. Next I read James by Percival Everett, and it's a retelling of Huckleberry Finn told from the perspective of the slave in the story, and it flips the narrative and humanises the characters a lot more. It's very gripping, you can't stop reading it, and I absolutely loved it. That's going in there God tier, I'd say. Then I read My Friend by Hyunam-Dong, another 5-star read, and this is about feeling disconnected and lost from your homeland, and it's about the dictatorship in Libya and sort of fleeing that for better opportunities, education and a better life. Felt sort of educated whilst I was also reading these really rich characters. The heart of the story's family and friendship, and how no matter how much distance or time is between people, they still have those deep connections and longings for where they're from, and I just thought it was a really beautiful story, so she's going right up to God tier as well. And then the final book of October was Brat by Gabriel Smith, and I really hated this book.
Not ashamed to admit it.
I listened to it on audio, and first of all, there's like no plot, which, you know, I love a book with no plot, just vibes, but the vibes weren't even there. It's said to be like a ghost story. We've got like two sort of narratives going on at the same time, but I couldn't get invested in it because one, he kept talking about his skin peeling off. I also listened on audio, and this is a bit nitpicky, but the audio recording kind of gave me the ick because it was very breathy.
Come on, leave me breathless.
So when I was listening to the audiobook, I was just getting the ick, and I just didn't, no, it wasn't for me. I'm not going to put it in Shredder because that's a bit harsh, plus I didn't read the physical book, so she's going in Shorjan. Then on to November, I read Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Classic Sally, two brothers, they have like fractured relationship, they're grieving the loss of the father, and they're very different. One's a chess prodigy, one's a lawyer. It's set in Dublin. It's classic Sally Rooney, and I ate it up and left no crumbs. She's going in That's Mother. Then I read The Boyfriend, or listened to The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden on audio. I wanted something quick, exciting, thrilling, and did it do what it said on the tin? Yeah, but plot and the characters not very believable. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't anything groundbreaking. I gave that 2.5. She's going in meh. Sorry, I'm going to actually put her in Shorjan. Then I read Held by Anne Michaels, and this was a Booker Prize shortlist. I was trying to read the Booker Prize nominees from the library, and this is a very poetic, sort of lyrical, reflective book about people and how they've been impacted throughout different wars over time, and we follow different characters in different time periods. I did find the prose very beautiful and touching, and you can tell that Anne Michaels is a poet. The lack of plot sort of left me wanting more, so I gave that 3.5, and she's going in meh, sorry. Then I read or listened to Down the Drain by Julia Fox on audiobook. I gave that 5 stars. I absolutely ate it up. Her narration just makes the book even more enjoyable. Her life is just shocking. I'm a goody two shoes, and I just can't believe like that's her life. That's going in That's Mother, because she is Mother.
It's a masterpiece, if I do say so myself.
And then I read Eliza Clark's short story collection, She's Always Hungry, and it's got obviously multiple short stories. It's a collection. Classic Eliza Clark writing if you love boy parts or penance. Elements of body horror, dark stories that have like feminist tones. She's really flexing her writing muscles and a talent. She's going in That's Mother. I gave her 4 stars. Now on to the final month of the year, December. First book I read in December was I Want to Die But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki, if that's how you pronounce it, sorry, by Baek Shihi. Sorry, I'm trying my best. I gave that 4 stars. That's a very poignant and revealing deep dive into a person's mental health. It's conversations that she's had with her psychiatrist, and it really shines a light on mental health and how nuanced and complex it can be, and how talking to someone can really benefit you for the better. Found it touching, and if you're struggling with your mental health, I'll recommend that you read it to show that you're not alone. She's going in That's Mother. Then I read The Teacher by Frida McFadden. As I said, I read one of her other books. I listened to this on audio again. I wanted something quick and thrilling. Sometimes you're just in the mood for a thriller, but I'm usually disappointed in them. But I did enjoy this more than I enjoyed The Boyfriends. I found the plot more engaging, the characters felt more realistic, and it follows sort of a bit of a storyline about a teacher-student relationship, and it'll leave you kind of angry. My eyes were rolling because of just like the things that men get away with.
I said what I said!
But I thought the pacing and the plotting were quite good. Is it something new and original? No, we've seen it before. But is it an enjoyable read if you want something thrilling? I'd say yeah, give it a go. She's going in meh, because although she was meh, I did enjoy aspects of her. Then I read The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. Listened to this one on audiobook as well, and this was said to be a horror, and it was not a horror. There were some body horror aspects, I'll give it that, but it was more of a character exploration of someone who's sort of on the edge and discovering that she's sort of had enough with how she's treated by men in society.
She's got a point.
And she takes matters into her own hands, I'll simply say that. But I felt like it was a bit long, and towards the end the plot kind of fell off, so she's going in meh. I gave her 3.5. Then I started to read Creation Lake by Rachel Yoder, and this was another Booker Prize, and I DNF'd it because after 50 pages nothing was happening and I couldn't get into it, and it was one of those books again where the synopsis lies to us.
Lies, lies, and more lies.
So she got DNF'd. And then I ended the year on a high with Days of Abandonment by Elena Ferrante, and I've wanted to read this for a while. I found a new female rage book. She's been left by a husband for a younger woman, and she is absolutely enraged. So much so, she does things that even I am shocked by. And I gave it 4.5 because this is just a bit of a trigger warning, but something happens to a dog in the book, and as a dog lover, I had to remove half a star because I couldn't forgive her for that. So she's going into That's Mother because quite literally is a mother and she's had enough of it. So yeah, that's everything that I read in 2024. I'd say I had a pretty good reading year. Found some new favourites. I explored audiobooks more, and I'd say I enjoyed more of the books than I didn't, and it's just a good sort of bookend to the year to do these tier rankings, so I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you made it this far what your favourite book of the year was, and if you've read any of these, what you thought. If you'd be a doll and an icon, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, put the bell notification on so you know when this diva releases a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in 2025. Bye!